Have you ever wondered how you can capture, organize, and execute your ideas more efficiently? How you can leverage AI to turn a simple note into a dynamic piece of knowledge? Welcome to a world where this is not just possible, but incredibly easy. I'm Srini, the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem, and today we're diving into an exciting topic: efficiently connecting ideas and automating processes with AI. We'll explore how AI can help us generate ideas, organize them more effectively, and execute them seamlessly. We'll delve into the power of bidirectional links, collections, and AI tools that can transform a simple book note into an outline for a blog post. So, if you're ready to revolutionize your workflow, maximize your output, and turn your ideas into reality, you're in the right place. Now, let's get to the tutorial.
So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how a tool like Mem can be used for a combination of idea generation, idea organization, and idea execution using a combination of standard Mem features as well of some of its AI capabilities. So one of the problems that most of us have when it comes to organizing information and generating ideas is that ideas usually don't come to us linearly. They may not come to us whenever, we're in front of a computer, and so we lose a lot of good ideas. And this is one of the things that I love most about Mem is the fact that it allows you to capture ideas in a whole number of different ways. You can actually set it up so that if you wanted to, you can send yourself text messages. If you go here, for example, and so if you're in your car or something like that, one of the things that you can do is you can just say send a text to Mem because Mem is actually a contact in your phone. But for the sake of this example, what we're going to do is we're going to take a set of notes from a book and use it to generate a bunch of ideas, organize those ideas, and then turn those ideas into an outline for a blog post. So recently, I read this really interesting book called Exile on Front Street: My Life as a Hell's Angel and Beyond. And one of the things that struck me about this book was how many similarities there were to my own sort of mission and message behind my podcast, The Unmistakable Creative. So I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, maybe there's an idea for a blog post here. So you can see here that in addition to being able to capture all my notes here, I can actually look at these notes while I'm working on it. So for example, if I were working on the blog post that I want to write, I could actually have a link to this and reference it while I'm writing without having to open a bunch of different tabs or open a bunch of different apps or open a bunch of different folders. So you reduce your multitasking a lot. So one of the quotes that really stood out to me was the one that he said at the very end of the book, that given what the masses are doing, if you follow your own compass, you know what you're doing, you're already an outlaw. And I really liked that idea because I felt like it kind of echoed some of my own sentiments about, what it means to be unmistakable. So I'd had this idea for a blog post, and here what we're going to do is we're going to take this idea, what a former Hell's Angel can teach you about being unmistakable, and then we're just going to turn that into a note. And so now you can see we have this note titled "What a former Hell's Angel Can Teach You About Becoming Unmistakable." And we basically captured the idea based on the book. So the cool thing about this is you could even capture all the ideas right here. So let's say you had a bunch of other ideas for, concepts from this book. Well, one thing we could do, and this takes us right into the next section, is we could start organizing those ideas. So let's say, for example, that I wanted to create a note titled Life Lessons from a Hell's Angel. Well, if I put the note here, just by putting a @ symbol, that would automatically link it here. So for example, if I did that here, then when we open the note, Life Lessons from a Hell's Angel, it would be right there. But for the sake of this example, what we're going to do is we're just going to create another note and we're going to call it Life Lessons from a Hell's Angel. Now, the cool thing about this is that eventually what will happen is that you will actually start to see other notes here on your sidebar. Right now, there are not any because this is a new note, but you would actually probably more than likely see that note from my book. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and link it. So now we have this note. We know what it was referencing or where we got the idea from. And so now we can connect our ideas to the sources that they came from using this concept of bidirectional links. So let's go back to our demonstration here. So now that we've created this note titled Life Lessons from a Hell's Angel, there are a number of different ways that we can organize it. So as you can see here, we've included a link to the actual notes for the book. So if we click on that, those show up right there. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back here And that's one way we can organize things. So, for example, let's say that I wanted to just organize all the different notes related to this life lessons from a Hell's Angel idea. Well, then what I could do is I could just put them all into this one note and work from just that note without having to find everything constantly. And I could basically just reference everything as you've seen here. So that makes idea organization much more streamlined, but we can go a bit further as well. So one of the things that we can do is we can create what are called collections. So collections basically are tags. And in this case, what we've got here is a collection, and we can just add notes to the collection either by adding them here. So what we might say is, look for Exile on Front Street. So we can add them through search. But the other thing we could do is we can basically also add them as tags right here, and then they get added to that. So now, if I want to add this to my Unmistakable Lessons from Unusual Lives collection, and I go back to the collections here, you will actually see this when it refreshes show up as a collection of all the various notes that we've added. So I could add, for example, the demonstration that we're doing right now. Depending on how much information you have in here, things will get really long. So this is one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and add that. So now we've gone in just a matter of a few minutes to taking a set of book notes, to coming up with a blog post idea related to those book notes, taking a few different notes, for example, life lessons from a Hell's Angel, as well as creating this collection of unmistakable lessons from unusual lives. So one of the things that we can do there is you can see here that it'll also recommend other notes to add. So in terms of organizing ideas, it basically gives us almost complete freedom so that we don't forget anything. Everything is easy to find, and we can use a combination of both tags and links. So now we're going to get into the AI pieces. And this is where I think MEM is very cool in terms of the capabilities, because one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about tools like ChatGPT or even in MEM Chat is that we tend to typically treat them just as digital slaves when they really can become creative thought partners. So in this case, what we want to do is I'm going to actually ask MEM Chat, what are some of the key takeaways from Exile on Front Street? And so we're just going to go here to chat, and I'm going to say, and so it's going to basically reference that note and distill a bunch of the key takeaways. It's going to say, what this book is about. And so here it's basically giving me a sense of all the themes that we might be able to extract from this book. But here's where things get really cool in terms of going from idea generation to idea execution. So what I'm going to do now is say, okay, cool. Let's turn this into an outline for a blog post about what a Hell's Angel can teach you about being unmistakable. So what it'll do is it will take whatever it's just given us, and what we'll get from a book notes is a outline for a blog post. And so you can see here, it basically gives you a sort of, rough outline, and we can go further with this outline. We could say, okay, you know what, let's add some bullets to each of these sections for the topics to cover. Then it will give us a revised version of this outline. So you can see here that now we can keep just working with this, and we can have it ask, questions. So suddenly you go from just having a book note that is sitting in isolation somewhere to a sort of dynamic piece of knowledge that is connected to other pieces of knowledge that helps you generate ideas. So everything becomes way easier in terms of coming up with new ideas, capturing those ideas, organizing those ideas, and most importantly, executing those ideas. So now we've taken basically a note that was about the Hells Angels, and I've turned it into a outline for a blog post about something related to my audience at the Unmistakable Creative. And that's the beauty of having a system that allows us to organize information this way. in a network-based system, because then we're not constantly searching for things. We're not losing track of really important ideas. We can capture everything as it occurs. So as everything is easy to organize, and we can speed up the rate at which we execute simply by reducing the time it takes to find the information we need. So just to recap everything, first, idea generation. There are a number of different ways that you can capture ideas inside of Mem, as we've talked about here. So for example, we could use text messages. We could just directly enter them into here, or we could just capture them in a link. So if we're working in one note and that note sparks an idea, then we can go on to the next note. For organizing your ideas, you have a combination of things like we talked about. We have bidirectional links, which allow you, for example, to add a bunch of links. So I could just say, okay, every single life lesson from a Hell's Angel could all go into this note. Alternatively, I could basically create this collection called Unmistakable Lessons from Unusual Lives by going over here to collections. And in that collection, everything that is related to that specific topic or project is going to be right there. So we've talked about bidirectional links. The other way we can organize things is with collections, as we saw earlier. Basically, when we create a collection, we can just keep adding notes to it. If we wanted to, we could go and open the collection itself and add notes by searching. And this becomes really useful when you want to organize different resources, or you want to organize all your notes based on one specific project. Let's say you're writing a book. All the notes related to that book could be in one collection, as well as sub-collections within the collection for that book. And then finally, you're able to use MEM's AI tools like MemChat to not only access and retrieve that information, but to do something with it. So for example, we started with nothing but a book note, and we took an idea for a blog post and we leveraged MEM's AI to turn it into an outline. So if you're somebody who has struggled with the combination of idea generation, organization, and execution, particularly if you're somebody like a writer or somebody who manages a large volume of information like a creative knowledge worker, this is a game changer. And I'm telling you this as somebody who reads 3 books every week, interviews 3 people on a podcast. I built this entire setup for myself. When I discovered Mem, I realized it was the solution to virtually all of my information overload problems. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.